All right, everyone, let's continue with our chapter on the atom and trends on the periodic tables. So now that we have a better idea of what the periodic table is and how I can draw or represent these atoms, and I also know some of the trends of the periodic table, and more importantly for this part right now, what are and how many valence electrons I can find in something, we can move on to something called the Lewis symbols. Lewis symbols um, are a convenient way to represent the valence electrons of any atom represented as dots. For this, these dots are placed on the sides and the top and the bottom of the symbols to represent how many valence electrons are in one particular element. So let's see, for example, I have the element of carbon. I look up carbon in the periodic table and I find this element in group 4A, which tells me that carbon has 4 valence electrons in its outer shell. So what the Lewis structure of carbon it's going to be, and how do I locate or allocate these electrons around the symbol to make a correct Lewis structure. So what we do is we start putting these valence electrons, these 4 valence electrons, one at a time on each corner of my element. So I am going to start here at the top, and I place one, and I place the second, then I place the third, and finally I put the fourth element in carbon right there. One important thing to keep in mind is that we are looking at this symbol as having 4 sides or 4 corners. If I have more than 4 valence electrons that I am putting one at a time, after I do 4, I'm going to start with my fifth electron, and I'm going to start doing pairs of electron at each of the 4 corners of my symbol. Each of the 4 corners of my symbol. Let's go ahead and do a little practice with the Lewis structure of some elements. Let me get a pen here so that I can write here on the presentation. Let's get a nice blue color on this. Let's start with the first one for bromine. So we search up bromine in the periodic table. I find bromine in group 7A, which means that bromine has a total of 7 valence electrons. Let's put it here, 7 valence electrons. Just excuse this, it's a little bit weird, but it'll make do. It'll make do. 7 valence electrons. So first thing that we have to do for doing the Lewis structure of bromine is we're going to write down its symbol. So having the symbol, now I have to figure out how many valence electrons I am going to allocate. So it's 7. So this is how we do it. We start at the top here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We still have to put 3 more. So now I'm going to start doing pairs of electrons. So 5, 1 dot over here, 6, 1 dot over there, and finally 7. So now I double check that I have my 7 valence electrons. Yes, I do, around the atom. And as you can see, they're allocated in pairs, and I always put them one at a time. So this would be the Lewis structure for bromine. So now let's find out. Let's look out for aluminum. Aluminum, it's a little bit weird because I'm just going to tell you what are the valence electrons of aluminum right here. But you can do it yourself because aluminum, it's in group 3A of the periodic table, and that directly tells me that aluminum has 3 valence electrons, right? It has 3 valence electrons. So let's try it out. What is the first thing that I do? I find the atomic symbol for aluminum, which is Al, and how many electrons am I going to allocate around this aluminum? 3 of them, so we start at the top. 1, 2, and 3. That's it. That is what we call the Lewis symbol for aluminum. Then next let's do the third one right here. We have phosphorus. We do the same thing with phosphorus. Where can I find it? I look it up. It's in group 5A of the periodic table. That means that this has 5 valence electrons. 5 valence electrons. So I'm going to go ahead and write the symbol for phosphorus, which is capital letter P. And how many electrons I'm going to put around this stuff? I am going to put 5. So let's start here at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more. I have to do a little pair right there with 5 valence electrons. So there we have it. This is how we do it, how we work with this valence electrons. Let's do a couple more examples just for the sake of it. And let's say that we want to do the valence electron for the element lithium. For the element lithium. Let's locate lithium in the periodic table. I can find lithium in group 1A of the periodic table. That means that it has 1 valence electron. So this should be very easy, very simple. The symbol for lithium will be Li, and it only has 1 valence electron. So this is good. It's good, only 1 valence electron. So I can start at the top there, do a little dot, and that is the valence electron for lithium. Let's do one more example. Let's say that I want to find the valence, the Lewis symbol for sulfur. So let's see here. We're looking out for sulfur. So I look it up in the periodic table. I find it in group 6A. How many valence electrons? It's going to have 6 valence electrons in here. So let's go on with it. First thing we do, the atomic symbol for sulfur. How many electrons we're going to put around it? We're going to put 6. So I start there at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 more I have to go. So little pairs. 1 there and 1 in here. And there we have it, guys. There we have how we do Lewis symbols for any element on the periodic table. This is a very easy, simple way simply to express how many valence electrons something has. This is something we're going to use a little bit later to represent how elements bond together with other elements, all because of this valence electrons that we have. So a couple practice like this, like always we do. Following this video, you're going to find a file with some practice exercises that are required for our class. Follow the instructions, practice with this stuff so that we can get prepared for our section quiz. All right, guys? So see you on the next one.